We'll call this meeting of the Central Front Range Transportation Planning Region to order. It's 10 o'clock.
May I just climb in real quick? Did we go through restrooms? Down the stairs, down the hall, second left, past the training room on the right. And then if you could just sign in so I can prove I had people here to eat snacks so I can pay for them. I'd appreciate that.
Maybe I can never talk to her.
I was saying, can I get reimbursement on the donuts?
Sorry.
And justify that.
They weren't put on the same P card as the other snacks, so I appreciate you bringing them though.
Take down our tab.
So I will do a roll call here that we have, as you guys remember, Stack kind of started doing it this way. And then we're gonna start doing it this way, so we know who's here, who's not, and we'll do introductions of other folks that aren't on here. So we'll start off with Brookside. Shelby, town clerk, here. Kansas City, Leo, here. Cripple Creek. Steve, but that works too. Custer County, Lucas.
He is here, he's on.
How is he online? Cool.
I'm here.
Thanks. Pasco County, Victoria.
I'm here.
Fairplay, Janelle, Ray, or Scott. They online? Can you guys hear me online?
Yes,
Did they say yeah?
Yes.
I can hear you.
Thank you. Florence, here, Steve, they're not here. Huron County, I'm here. Park County. Got Nick. From Park. Rama, we don't have anybody, I guess, for that. Anybody from Rama here? Silver Cliff? Hill County's here, Stone, Victor. Yep. All right, Westcliff. Williamsburg. Transit, that's for Ted, supposed to be here for transit. You're here for Ted? Is that right? Are you here for Ted or Cripple Creek or both?
Cripple Creek, yeah, for Ted, yeah.
Is anybody else from transit here, Kathy? Ted? Oh,
I think she's here for Ted and Trent.
Yeah, maybe it's in your coalition, I think.
yeah, they're down for transportation representative, but then we also have Cripple Creek representative.
I'm the transit representative.
You're the transit representative?
Yeah.
Okay. So however we play that, you guys are covered Cripple Creek and transit.
I think we're good. You're welcome.
And then transportation commissioner.
Yeah.
she's on ours.
I'm here. I just turned myself off when I realized how big my face is on your screen.
Well, I got my back to you, so I can't see it, but everybody else can. And then other communities, Calhan, Cove Creek, or Rockville, anybody from those? Nope. Okay, is it? Wow. Okay, we'll do some introductions right quick to get everybody else in the room that's wasn't on this list, and we'll start. Am I right? Sam.
Hi, Sam Cochia, I'm Fremont County's new engineer, just moved to the area from Philadelphia.
Me too.
Man, this meeting went down.
I'm excited to be out here and learn more about transportation in the area. And how I can contribute.
It's Cochia, you said?
Yeah, Cochia.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Collins. I'm the planning liaison from CDOT HQ statewide and regional planning. And I am the liaison for the Central Front Range TPR.
Good morning, everyone. Lindsay Hopkins, CDOT Region 2 Planner.
I'm Julie McGrew. I'm directing City Public Works.
Thank you.
Barry Wagner from Cripple Creek.
Kathy Lowry, Teller Senior Coalition.
Ronnie Gordon, Keller Senior Coalition.
Emily Bardem, CDOT, Transit and Rail.
Good morning, Jason Nelson, CDOT Traffic, Program Engineer. Sorry.
Jeff Guthrie, Region 2 Planning, Scott Scanner, Region 2, a Transit Liaison, CDOT.
Rick Orphan, Fort Carson, Traffic Engineering and Planning.
Rob,
Karen Rowe, I'm
Oh, Karen.
Regional Grant Navigator for Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments.
Leo Evans. Jameson.
Rob Price, CDOT Planning Environmental.
Aaron Willis, CDOT, Headquarters Office, Division of Transportation Development, Statewide and Regional Planning.
okay, we got a few online, but I can't really tell who's on there, so. Aaron, Michelle's on there, Lucas, Lindsay's here. Half of them are here on there too, what the heck? Anyway, thank you guys for being online as well. Hopefully you can hear everything and somebody will have to watch and make sure if somebody has a question. I'm not seeing that. So, the first item on here is the TPR administration. Julie said she was here for that. So the Upper Arkansas Area Council of Governments has been transportation. What is it? Liaison? I don't know what you call it, I guess, between the CDOT and the TPR.
The administrator.
Administrator, yeah. And there's been some stuff happening at the that the person that was in charge of it, the original one we had, unfortunately died with COVID. And then they finally got somebody trained up and now she's taking another job. So we're starting over again, except there's nobody out at the cog to replace. So Canyon City stepped up. Julie's gonna run like a champion with this, even though it's not easy to understand to start with. But we appreciate that. We expect this to be a temporary role. I don't see it temporary, but we're gonna try to get the cog back on their feet. I'm on that board as well, and I really don't like that one, but we're gonna try to get the cog back on their feet and get somebody from there to handle the transportation as soon as we can. But appreciate Canyon City stepping up to do this. So be gentle with her, I guess. I don't know, but we'll make it through. Is there anything that anybody, Kathleen or anybody else? Lindsay?
I just want to say thanks to Region 2 because they're doing the AV for this meeting.
Yes.
And normally that would have been something that Samantha would do. So thank you for your support, Region 2.
Yeah, excuse me, I'll hand out this distribution list, that way we can make sure that we capture any members' contact information or email, so if Julie needs that interim, she has that information available.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and thanks Region 2, like I said, they stepped up to help with this AV on and everything else. And thanks Victoria for getting us a spot. Okay,
Thanks for the food.
I had some help.
and Eric brought donuts too. Bad stuff, I think. Stuff back there. Looks good. All right, we'll move on unless there's any questions with that. Leo, thank you for helping us with this as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll move on to the EC update. That's Commissioner.
Yep, there we go. All right, I don't have a ton of updates and I did want to let you know that I'm going to be in the meeting for a little bit, then I have to drop out for a bit and then I'll rejoin. So I apologize in advance for that. But the biggest update, obviously, I think that we're all thinking about right now is what's happening at the state level with the Joint Budget Committee and the state budget. So we have our commission meeting coming this Thursday. I think we haven't seen any major changes since last month, I don't believe, at the Joint Budget Committee. So I'll let the representatives from CDOT that I think Emily's going to give an update later. She can update that as well. So we're watching for that. The other thing I think that just to be aware of as we start to kick off processes for long range planning, I do believe Region 9 will have a telephone, they're having telephone town halls for all the different regions. And so for Region 9 or District 9, they will be on April 29th. So I will keep you posted. I don't think that anything will change on that front, but it's currently scheduled for April 29th at 6:30. So watch for details on that as they come forward. And those are the two biggest updates, but I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any, and then I will be available again at the second half of the meeting.
Anybody have any questions for her right off the bat? Don't see any, thank you. Looking at the agenda here. I forgot my note in stack too, so somebody's gonna have to help me all the stack. We don't have anybody else.
I didn't bring my notes either. I want to say the big discussion that I recall was the MMOF funding. We talked about that quite a bit. We recommended Safe Route to School Awards were recommended as a part of that. I think the MMOF is on here for discussion later in this meeting, so if we need to cover that. What else was there? I think just the timeline for all the regional plans was reviewed and gone over, just make sure everybody was on those. It's the best I got.
This is Kathleen, I can cover the main topics.
That's really good notes too, they're on the list.
So for April, yeah, we went over state and federal legislative update. Discussed the rural planning assistance program fiscal year 26 distribution formula. We had a safe routes to school update. And then we did have a statewide plan update that focused mainly on the 10-year plan process, the update of the 10-year plan. So those were the stack topics that we covered in April.
And then May is going to be in person.
Yes, May is going to be in person. So hopefully we see you there.
Okay. We'll move on to legislative update.
That would be Emily.
Yeah, Emily's on.
Hi, everyone. Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Hadway. I'm a legislative liaison for CDOT. If I haven't met you before, thanks so much for having me today. Yes, as Commissioner Parsons mentioned, tracking JBC budget decisions has definitely been top of mind for me, Transportation Commission, a lot of different CDOT staff members, and a lot of other folks. So I thought it would be helpful to first just start out with just kind of a recap of the decisions that have been made so far. And just as a reminder, there's been a very tight budget crunch this year with about $1 billion budget deficit across the state that's needed to be addressed. And so all agencies have taken some hits. Transportation's definitely taken more of a hit than we have in past years. And so one of those big changes has been our reduction in general fund transfers. So under SB 21-260, there was a direction to allocate $100 million to the State Highway Fund for, I believe, 10 or 12 years. And the first year we received that, that allocation was this year. And so that was kind of the one piece that we knew was definitely going to be up because the general fund has just been so sparse this year. And so we are receiving some general fund this year. Instead of $100 million, we're receiving $36 million. And then next year, we're receiving $50.5 million. So there's two big reductions there that we're tracking. But what the JBC did decide to do was basically take that funding reduction for these 2 years and tack that amount on to one more year in the future to keep CDOT whole as far as the promised amount that was identified in SB 21-260. So, of course, having that funding now would have been preferable, but at least it's not a straight cut. There is at least an intention to hold us whole in the future. The JBC also made the decision to stop the $7 million annual general fund transfers to the Revitalizing Main Streets program. That was not a request that we submitted, but it was something that they identified as to make room to fund other programs. And so that is the only funding source for that program. So there will not be future awards made until that, there might be some effort to exhaust if there's any existing funding. But as far as future awards, that $7 million will not be continuing. The JBC also voted to reduce the road safety surcharge in order to make room under the Tabor cap. And so that is $3.70 reduction across all weight classes for the next two fiscal years. And the legislation is drafted to hold locals harmless in terms of their HUTF allocation. And so CDOT would absorb the majority of that impact. And that would result in slightly less programming as far as faster safety projects and asset management projects. There is a little bit that's still up in the air on that because in the last few weeks, we've identified that the DMV is not able to make implement the reductions by July 1st, 2026. It just is, it's a little bit too tight of a time crunch to get that done. There's a lot of planning with locals that requires, and also a lot of extra programming in their drive system. And so the earliest they can get that implemented is September 1st, 2026. And so that's left a little bit of room up in the air because if we're moving the implementation date to September instead of July, there's 2 months that does not have those reductions, and that would put us over the Tabor cap for the state. And so that bill is actually going to a conference committee tomorrow, which means all of the JBC members will gather together again to figure out how to amend the two bills, both this bill and potentially the general fund transfer bill to keep the state budget balanced. So that's one thing that is kind of outstanding with the budget that will happen tomorrow. And our talking point with the JBC has been to not cut CDOT any further than already identified, because we do not think it's appropriate to take any more cuts than we have already. And then one of the other big ones, which I'm sure you all are tracking, is the sweep of the multimodal options fund. So they identified, and again, that was not a request made by CDOT to the JBC. That was a JBC decision. That cash fund does have a higher balance than a lot of our other cash funds. And so I do think it was sort of a target in that sense. And so they chose to sweep $71.8 million of general fund, of previously allocated general fund from that cash fund, and then return that to the general fund balance. And so I know we talked a lot at STAC last, was that last week, 2 weeks ago? Time is no concept to me right now. But we talked at the last STAC meeting a lot about what that implementation means. I know Darius can answer some more questions about that too, if necessary. But that is one thing that we're tracking and want to work very closely with the MPOs and TPRs about how to make sure that we're able to implement that in a way that is as streamlined as possible and holds our projects as harmless as possible as we can. Other just smaller decisions that were made, CDOT had requested spending authority for the Clean Transit Enterprise, so continuous spending authority. Right now, there's 4 cash funds under the Clean Transit Enterprise. The original one that was created by SB 21260 is annually appropriated, and that makes implementation very difficult. So we had requested continuous appropriation, but that request was denied. But they did give us authorized 3 years of roll forward authority, so that'll make it a little bit easier to implement that cash fund, but they didn't approve that continuous appropriation request. The marijuana impaired driving program is one thing we've been tracking. That was that's funded out of the marijuana tax cash fund, which is incredibly strained this year and is projected to be even more strained in future years. Typically, we receive $950,000 from that cash fund. That allocation has been reduced to $450,000, and then we also were allocated $500,000 from the Capital Development Committee for highway construction projects, which is just kind of our general appropriation that we get every year from the Capital Development Committee. So those are the big, the budget decisions that we're tracking. And then just a few other bills that I think would be good if they're not on your radar. HB 25-1303, funding for motor vehicle collision prevention, is a bill that's moving through the legislature. That's a bill that implements a $3 fee on car insurance, and that goes to a new enterprise in CDOT, 70% of which will go to local funding for grants for vulnerable road user projects, and 30% which will go to wildlife crossings, primarily on state highways. Increased transportation mode choice, reduce emissions, SB 30 is passed Senate appropriations. That's the bill that would create sort of a database of mode choice planning gaps and where there's needs for more transit projects and bike projects, pedestrian projects, and that bill has been amended significantly from the original version of the bill, and that will be heard on the Senate floor probably sometime this week. And then the third bill I wanted to highlight is tire chain traction controlled device permit. That's SB 2569. That's one that CDOT is supporting. That is a safety bill and would allow CDOT to issue permits to independent vendors that wanted to set up in CDOT right of way to perform chain assist activities and support getting CMVs chained up. I know we have a lot of folks that come in from out of state on I-70, and as well as a lot of our other difficult passes to navigate. So that would hopefully help with some chain compliance issues as well. So so those are three bills I wanted to highlight, but happy to talk about any other bills that anyone's tracking. So that's what's happening right now. Happy to answer questions.
So what was the total cut from CDOT? Was it 77 million?
I can send the overall. It kind of depends on how you look at it in terms of cuts this year, transfers in future years. There's this year it's 64 million of general fund, 7 million to RMS, 22 million to from the road asset safety and asset management program from Faster, and then a $70 million sweep from MMOF. So those are the pieces from this year. Then there's also some cuts next year, but they're pretty significant as far as looking at them all together. But also we do think that they're absorbable this year, and you know, of course, it does mean less programming, but it doesn't mean dire impacts overall. But if this was something that was implemented every year, it would definitely be an issue. So if this problem persists in future years, it's definitely something that we want to get out in front of, because transportation is critical for everyone's constituents and in the legislature. So I know it was a hard decision all around, but ultimately that was what they decided to take from.
Thank you. Any further questions, Eric?
Yeah, I have a question on that. I forgot, I didn't write down the number. Basically, the collision avoidance bill, the insurance fee. 1303. What is it?
1303.
Yeah, 1303. We got briefed on that last week at CCI, and there were some concerns about frankly, the control of those funds. I think the way the bill is written, that the Transportation Commission would do the allocation of those funds. And since in many ways it's kind of replacing MMOF or could replace some projects that may have been previously funded through MMOF, is whether or not those funds should frankly flow through to TPRs. Would the Transportation Commission have the authority to direct that type of equity sharing of those funds? Because I think it's projected to be, you know, $50 million over the course of the first 2 years. Any news on that, or authority over the awarding of those revenues?
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to that a little bit more. So since this funding would be in an enterprise that's not under the Tabor cap, it must be subjected to the rules of an enterprise, which means it has to be an independent business making independent decisions. And so if you add those sort of allocation percentages, it does make it less tricky to justify that it is an independent business, because then it just kind of becomes, this is a government entity giving funding to other governments, and they don't really have that decision-making power. And so with the multimodal options fund, since that's not an enterprise and it's it's a cash fund under CDOT, those kind of allocation percentages are allowable, but it is trickier to add that in an enterprise. And so we have, it is written in the bill that there must be a statewide considerations taken into the bill, so that there's not just one region that's receiving all of the funding. That's also how enterprises must operate legally too, because this is a fee that's collected statewide, so it has to have impact statewide as well. But it does get tricky when you start to consider adding those percentage distributions, unfortunately. But if there are other ideas about ways that we can ensure that funding gets out the door in an equitable way without setting percentages, I'm happy to talk through that and bring that to the sponsors too.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the overall concern is just to make sure that they don't feel like they've covered rural Colorado just by providing wildlife crossings, that there's other concerns outside of that.
Yep, that makes sense. And that's how I'm reading the bill, is that the vulnerable road user piece has to also have a statewide nexus too, that we can't just say, okay, well, 30% has gone to the western slope, and so now rural Colorado's covered. The 70% also has to have a statewide consideration, but happy to add some language in there that maybe makes that a little bit tighter too.
Thank you.
I think that's one of the concerns with CCI, as it always is that money, though intention for the state, ends up in metro areas, not rural. So even though it says it's consideration, what does that mean? Yeah, I looked at it, I considered it. So I think that's what we're worried about it.
Yeah, I understand that concern. I do think one good thing about that as well is that the Transportation Commission does have a designated representative from across the state, and you could argue has more rural representation than metro representation. So I do think that also will ensure that rural Colorado is represented too.
And then just confirming that Revitalizing Main Street program dollars that have already been awarded are going to be awarded like fully. That we don't expect any caps to like we announced thus far.
That's my understanding. Yeah. If there's anyone else on this call that understands differently, let me know. But yeah, I don't believe we've made any awards into future years. It's only been allocated funding, and so I don't believe there'll be any canceled projects.
Awesome, thank you.
Any other questions? I don't see any. Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, Michael Snow just confirmed that was a correct assessment on RMS. So thanks everyone. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Emily.
Lindsay, did you get the El Paso County guest password?
I think so, yes.
Can you share it with others that might need it? I'm sorry, I don't know, and I get hooked onto the network automatically.
It is the word Colorado, lowercase c. Oh, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Colorado, but zeros instead of O's.
Mr. Chairman, and Michael Snow online for the MMOF update.
Oh, good. We're up to you, Michael. MMOF Awards, update.
Okay. Hi, folks. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I have this new earpiece for meetings that unfortunately is not very good at filtering out other voices around the room. So if it gets too bad, let me know. So unfortunately, I'm, here to bear some bad or frustrating news, or I suppose Emily got to do that in terms of the state's budget impact on MMOF funding. That proposal does take 71.4 million from the existing fund balance in the state treasury. And those reductions are going to be felt in the local program. So it is going to be felt against all of our TPR and MPO allocations. To try to put that into context in terms of size and what that means to you individually, what we're doing, first off, we don't know the total final amount. We can certainly project what we think that looks like for your TPR allocations, but until it's really final, we don't really know what it's going to be. And at the same time, we have a little bit of some reconciliation of funds that we can do that we're basically going to scrape all the bits together in the pot, so to speak, so that we're reflecting everything, every dollar, and therefore reduce as much as possible what the actual dollar impact is to your allocations. And what we've determined as a sort of a rough estimate of what this means is the 26, 27, and 28 allocations that are projected allocations, right? So these are the subsequent retail fee revenues and general fund transfers that are still in place and will be transferred to the MMOF fund every July. With those expected allocations, it will cover the loss of the current funds up through FY25. And for Central Front Range, that's maybe advantageous, the fact that you haven't awarded any of your 24 and 25 allocations yet. So it's a little bit less painful for you as a TPR to figure out where to make these adjustments. In other words, had you awarded all your 24 and 25 funds already, let's say, you have more impacts to those current projects. But because you haven't, you'll be able to make some subsequent awards for your funding all the way up through FY28. But it's going to be slim, and it's a thinner pot of funds for your applicants to come after. I think in your current slate of applications, you had, let me go real quick to your requests. I think you had, you've got a little shy of 1.2 million in requests for funds and about 1.8 million available today. But of course, that 1.8 million available to award today is going to be reduced by the Central Front Range's share of funding take back that the legislature will likely pass this year. So what we are recommending for TPRs is to pause making any subsequent awards at this time until we have final numbers. We know where it's truly going to land. And we'll have all those reconciliations done so we know the dollar amounts. Anyway, so the one thing you have is that you've got a couple different projects that are asking for supplemental funding. So these are past MMOF awards that are ready to be implemented, but they need a little bit of funding to fill cost escalations and so forth. So there's a couple that are going to use funding right away should you make an award to them. And they'll basically have to just delay if they're planning to go to advertising or start some work this summer. They may be delayed by a little bit. But what I'm basically saying to you as a TPR is that rather than making awards today, you may be needing to reconvene and make those awards in, let's say, May or even June, when we know the state's budget is finalized. So with that, I'll stop talking and I'm sure there's questions.
No, that's what I got out of what you said, was we need to pause and wait till we have a budget. Victoria, go ahead.
Projects that are already under option letters, are they held harmless?
Yeah, that's a good question, Victoria. So, yes and no, right? So projects that let's say were awarded funds long ago, their IGA or a grant was executed, but they haven't done any activity yet. They haven't actually started anything. That those are somewhat committed. And what I mean by that is, generally, if there's no funding available anymore, obviously the state can't uphold their end of that grant contract, and all of them have the language in there to say if the funding goes away and it's not there, they can no longer fulfill that obligation. But we don't think that we're in any of those positions currently. That said, it is completely up to the TPR when the time comes to maybe review not just the current request of funding, new requests, but to look across the entire portfolio of MMOF projects. And if there are some that have continued to be delayed in getting implemented, you have the choice to make decisions about either reducing them or delaying their award. Let's say if they were awarded some 23 funds, but they haven't started, you might change that to be an award of 27 or 28 funds, that kind of thing. And we'll work through those details when we get to it.
Any other questions? So out of the $1.8 million, we don't know what that cut's gonna be then, right? Until they finish their budget completely.
Michael, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, we have kind of ballpark ranges, but it's just so hard to know where it's really going to land. If you want to corner me for an estimate, I'm going to say we're probably right around 800,000 remaining of that 1.8. And what I mean is, I think you'll be able to make subsequent awards of approximately that amount using your FY 26 through 28 allocations. So your options may look like this. You may have existing ones that you want to put out and, delay them, update those awards and make those awards of later years so that current funding or the more recent years funds are available to the projects that are ready to use them. You can also look all the way out to your FY 29 allocations. So, just a refresh, right? Our current STIP goes through FY 28, but come July 1, if we're looking 4 years out, now you can actually be considering your FY 29 allocation as well. And I believe your annual allocations are right about 350,000 by that point. So those are the ballpark figures I can kind of give you, and what you'll have to work with when you come together for those decisions.
Okay. Thank you. Any other thoughts, questions?
Sounds like we need to stock up on cold patch and tampers.
Yeah, meet some potholes.
So another question on this too is with House Bill or Senate Bill 030, and locals being able to use MMOF funds to do that planning, that ridiculously big planning process of gaps and pedestrian and bikes. So now there's no funding for that and it's basically an unfunded mandate. Is that how we're seeing it? I have a county the size larger than Delaware that I have to figure out how to do this all by myself as I have no staff people. So I would hope that CDOT figures out some way to make this process simplified, streamlined, pulling things out of existing plans and not making me do an entirely new planning process that I do not have the capacity to do.
That's the land use, that's the
Mode choice,
mode choice.
yeah.
Yeah, because there will be a lot not done, because there won't be the capacity to do it.
Yeah, I don't know how I could even do this.
That's a good point. Aaron's gonna check on that before he's gonna tell.
Yeah.
He's gonna find 4 interns for me.
I was gonna say.
I'm out of luck.
I'm sure there's other unforeseen stuff too coming, we don't know about yet.
Yeah, the ripples started,
Yeah,
hard to see.
Mhm.
okay, any other questions for Michael? MMOF or any thoughts, we'll have to. I don't know, May's early enough to do a meeting in the May, maybe, I don't know. I guess we'll have to play that way or on the awarding.
I think we'll have to play it by ear, Mr. Chair. That's hard to say.
Yeah.
And then surely everybody would be at least available for an online,
Right.
or I'll force you all to come to Pueblo. Just kidding.
Yeah, we'll keep our eyes out for that, we'll have to figure it out as we go.
Suggest we hold it until our calendar, we might be on fire by then, so.
Yeah, so, Chair, I think, what you can expect is by the time we have final numbers, we'll actually be able to provide you a whole package of information. We'll get you some status on all the current portfolio of projects so you can talk through those. And, I'm sure between myself and Region 2 staff, will kind of come to you with some recommendations on how to make adjustments if you need to, or what kind of changes you might make to the recommended slate of awards. Just let us know too if some side conversations would be helpful or needed for that as you get ready for a TPR meeting.
One more point to add, everybody, we're not sitting on our hands. Meanwhile, we are working with our contracting folks to hopefully be ready to go as soon as we do find this new information, so that there is no other delay. I saw Kathy's face there and I understand the situation with Lauren.
Thanks, Michael, I appreciate that, I appreciate, CDOT helping us with that too,
You bet.
Spend on it, guys, I appreciate your recommendations on that, help us work our way through that when we do get to that. So, anything else for Michael before we let him off the hook? Thank you, sir, appreciate that.
Good day, all. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. The delivery, not the information, we appreciate, I guess. That's what she said. All right. Headquarters. CDOT updates. Aaron.
Yeah, so we are round in the bend and seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I've got about 3 big things for you. One is a very, very preliminary draft of your regional transportation plan for us to look at. We also have a very draft version of your regional transit plan. We'll review that, but I think what we want to do is really focus in on your project list. We made some good headway last time. We had some questions I think we probably need to follow up on. But Kathleen has provided, I think everybody, make sure that everybody's got this list, and we can walk through this. This is how this is broken out. I've got 2 copies here, so somebody needs another one. I think this is broken out. I think the 1, 2, 3, first 4 pages. Oh no, this is you get 2 versions. You got the highway version and the transit version. And so just looking at this, and then I'll cue this up and then pass it on to Rob.
Yeah, that's fine.
Rob to talk for us to walk through. We'll walk through it together. But the way that this is broken out is you've got things that are already in the 10-year plan. You've got projects that are potentially the priorities. You've got priorities that are based and where those priorities come from, whether they came from a previous conversation, whether they were in your last plan or something that was already in the 10-year plan. Project ID, the type, highway, project name, description. We included the counties and then the status. And so we'll do that. I guess we'll at the discretion of the chair, we'll hit the highway projects first, and then we can go through the transit projects. Feel like we got plenty of time. It's just so this, you know, I'm glad you all allocated plenty of time, because if we can, and I know we can get this right. Then we can make sure that we get this correctly reflected in your draft plan, which has also been passed out. And we'll get this right, and I think it's on page kind of comes towards the middle 21. Which, yeah, there we go. Right now, we just got a placeholder there because we don't have this quite locked down like we'd like to. But we'll lock it down today. And then we'll get it right in your draft plan. I think it's wise for us to probably spend the time here with these two lists. Because this, then what we'll do is we'll get I think you already have this, but take a look at this. We'll give you 2 weeks. Got a comment sheet. So take your time with this, reading through this, making comments, and then we can incorporate those comments. And the way that we're going to work with the overall schedule is to release all of the regional plans and the statewide plan all together for a 30-day public review and comment period. And so again, what like Commissioner Parsons mentioned, we'll have a telephone town hall that covers this area. Also covers, this happened to be because of the commission districts are a little different than the TPR districts. We also cover a big chunk of metro area in Colorado Springs. But we'll have that conversation with the public. We'll also have a survey where folks can talk and provide input on those main goals, those main policy directive 14 goals that we've been talking about all throughout the planning process, which are advancing transportation safety, fixing our roads, sustainably increasing transportation choice. So we'll have the survey, we'll have the telephone town halls, and we will use some of that to fill in some of the what we heard sections in this draft. But you'll have 2 weeks to do that. And so with that, I will just turn this over to, you'll do the highway stuff first, Jared? Yep. And we'll go. Yep, and then Rob, yep.
If you don't mind, I just wanted to do that we did some of these chats. Looks like Lucas Meyer from Park County mentions to contact his office. He can put some, I'm not sure who you're referencing, Mr. Meyer, but someone into the resources. Potentially that's the planning or choice gaps, but we can follow up with you afterwards.
Follow up.
Lucas Meyer?
I think he's on too, right? Did you want to unmute?
Did you want to unmute with him? We can follow up with you later.
Yeah. Oh, he might, yeah, so you have a technical.
Yeah.
Okay, no worries. Thank you.
So just to let you guys know what we did for the other TPRs is we went down the list. We looked at the priorities that we proposed, and the TPR as a group decided, okay, this, yes, we agree, this is a priority, so we'll keep it at the top of the list. We're also not going to be ranking these projects because we don't have formal cost estimates for any of these. We're just looking at these as a need or not a need, a priority or less of a priority. So you can decide if you want to keep it on the top of the list as a yes, or if you want to move it further down on the list as less of a priority. And as Aaron already mentioned, it's based on the 10-year plan funding, or if there was funding related to another source, or if there's a new project that somebody mentioned, we put it on here. And then also the other projects are all based on the 2045 Regional Transportation Plan. So those are all the elements on both of the tables in red. And so the question is, if Commissioner McFall, you just want to like go down the list with each project and see what people think. Yes, it's a priority, keep it up at the top, or no, let's move it down because it's less of a priority now than it might have been 5 years ago, something like that. Oh.
Jason.
No, I was stretching my arm, sorry.
So if everyone's just looking. Took the liberty of not prioritizing, but kind of grouping them, so the top 3 projects on the highway rescue rate was in front of me, those are all funded. So my recommendation, like strong recommendations, keep those as a priority. I'm trying to make this as simple as quick as possible, so I put them in this order. The next 2 projects on there were new projects that were mentioned. If they're worthy of being mentioned enough, I thought they were probably worthy enough to maybe make that list the next tranche. And then the remaining projects down below on that front page were listed in your 10-year plan and or the 2045 plan. So that was kind of that next priority. And then I don't know how much time you really want to spend on the rest of these after that, but you know, my recommendation is not to put rural paving projects on there because they're asset programs and we'll certainly consider that in our 10-year plan, but maybe not so much on your long range plan. And then everything else after those rural paving projects, I believe those were in your appendix to your 2045 plan. So they weren't identified as a priority. So, and then I also want for Kathleen and Aaron maybe to. Is there a number we're looking at for the number of priority projects? Like 20, that's where we were last time, give or take. And then, and I'm just telling you, just trying to lead this quickly. So I think on the front page, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, there's 26, there's 26 highway projects that are potential priorities. And it's really up to the TPR to decide how many priorities they want to list. But if you look at both lists, there's 26 on the highway, and I believe there's 12 on the transit. But it's up to you to decide. We recommend maybe no more than 25. And then that would be highlighted in the body of the regional transportation plan as your priorities. And it would include both transit and highway. But they won't be ranked. So that's the process that we're hoping to accomplish today, that you select which ones you want to deem as a priority in your regional transportation plan.
One additional thing just to add, the remaining things, I guess, if you look at just what has red in the second and third column, that's your 26. Everything, nothing else gets lost. It just simply moves into another appendix that would be a part of your regional plan. So the sum number that you all decide of the things that have red on these first 2 columns are identified as priorities in your regional plan, and then everything else simply doesn't get lost. It's just in an appendix, and we will look to continue that process as we move through the priorities.
Yeah, question for clarification. Were you saying your recommendation is to remove the rural paving projects out of priority? I'm trying to understand the reasoning behind that, because it's kind of like, saying how healthy the willows are in Yellowstone, but on the Elk data, it's like kind of, look at those shoulders, and all the road widening, but the paving will continue to degrade in the areas where it hasn't been upgraded in recent years. I mean, are you anticipating other fundings? I'm just trying to understand why that recommendation, because obviously the center part of the road, the paving part, the part that everybody drives on, would seem to be a priority. But compared to, you know, perhaps some enhanced safety things like road widening, and I'm an advocate, obviously, I got projects on here.
Yeah.
But help me understand that.
Yeah, so if you look at the rural paving, you see that's on the 10-year plan, whereas it's not on the 2045 plan list, so we maintained two lists. We had our long-range plan list in 2045, then we developed our 10-year plan. And that 10-year plan also has a running list of regional or rural paving projects
Right.
on it. So we will be using the rural paving projects as part of our 10-year plan discussion, which will come after this. But it's not part.
So this is primarily on 2045 then, or am I just completely missing the request here?
I'm looking at. Trying to figure out, I understand your question, I'm trying to figure out how to answer it now. Clearly.
Well, I'm not sure why I'm confused either, so.
Yeah, I'll preface this with this. CDOT has too many doggone lists. That's part of the problem. I'm getting some head nods around the room. So that's part of the confusion. So 2045, you can see the list of projects that are still remaining. And we're recommending that those, or a subset of those, still move forward. Then after we got the 2045 list completed, we also put together a 10-year plan. And that 10-year plan consisted of your long-range plan projects, and it also included a separate list that we called rural paving projects. And we added those to the 10-year plan. So I know it's kind of one of those things of it's not getting lost. I'm just trying not to take up space in your top 20 list with rural paving.
Which is gonna happen.
Well, which is, and so assets, we will address assets regardless.
Okay, that's all I was looking for.
Does that make sense? I
It
want to make
does,
sure I
yeah.
answer it clearly. Okay.
I just want to make sure that since obviously resurfacing are fairly large dollar projects that,
Yes.
you know, that they get dropped off in favor of other projects and 10 years from now, we're not.
No, that's not, no,
Unredeemable situation.
we maintain different lists for all our assets. My recommendation is show us what your priorities are in the region. We still have those asset projects for surface treatment, for bridges and everything else.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I have a question on the very top one, Rob, the description of the project names. Yeah, our 115 shoulder safety approval, 115 between Canyon City and US 15. That's Canyon City to Florence to 50. Correct? I mean, it should be.
It would be the whole segment, because so everything south of 50.
Because you've also got. Or it's probably not in this 115 roundabout to Canyon City, which is 9th Street in Canyon City. It's almost just deceiving. It used to be worded different. I don't know where the word goes, but it should.
Should we rephrase it a little bit?
Well, it should be. Yeah, I think so. Through Florence to 50 maybe with Vice.
Through Florence to.
Yeah.
I worked on these tables, so it's probably my fault.
But it wasn't there. Yeah, it changed at some point, but I think just to clear it up, because there is a 115,
Right.
which is 9th Street in Canyon City.
Right.
Which is probably not on this because it should be from the roundabout to Florence. But this is, anyway, if we put through Florence to 50, I think it'll clear it up.
The entire length of 115.
Which would include 9th Street then.
Right.
Which has had a lot of work on it the last few years, so it does have pedestrian walkways and. But anyway, just that'll clear that out.
And it's a minor thing, unless I'm not understanding on the ninth one, which is the US 24 timber widening, is. It says 24 west, of Woodland Park, but it says it would be included El Paso County, which I don't think.
No, I agree.
So it's a small correction.
So what do we need to?
It's
correct?
a fourth one.
under the county's list, unless it's
You know, we'll
including.
come out here for those 24 improvements.
Yeah, unless it's including 24 east of Colorado Springs, or east of the
And
EPA.
that was project,
Got it crossed off.
Commissioner, that was project 1642.
Yes.
Yep, I got it.
Okay.
That's second from the bottom on the first page.
Okay.
Yeah, I caught it in the description. I didn't catch it in the county. Cause it did say El Paso.
Any other comments on this first page? I
Yeah,
think,
you see all of these as priorities at this point on the first page.
I know we've talked about all of these many times, so I, for lunch, yes.
I would concur.
I just didn't know there's 2567 is a project ID that's listed twice on the first page.
Say it again, I'm sorry.
Project ID 2567 is third from the bottom and then the bottom.
Whoops.
That's my fault.
So,
I didn't know if that makes a difference over one.
pushing 96 off. Still in the money.
So it looks like we only have 9 projects, one's a repeat.
Regarding the project that you were just discussing with ID 1642. I believe that project actually, while it's called US 24 shoulder widening, that project is really just a safety project that could be shoulder widening, but it could also be a number of other things. And it's currently in the phase of study, so we're just looking at it internally at CDOT right now, doing our own evaluation, but it'll look at the entire that corridor of 24 East. So once we complete that, yeah, so it could be a variety of different things. It could be a passing lane, it could be something different, like an intersection improvement. In fact, on the internal side of CDOT right now, all signs are kind of leading towards an intersection improvement at Highway 24 and 67 in Divide. So
That's a different project.
I'm sorry,
It's a different project.
that is a different project.
Yeah.
Do you have that project ID for that?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I think it might be 1010.
Is that 1011?
No, but project could get merged into the one I was just discussing. Well, nonetheless, Rob just pointed out that is in fact a different project, but it has a very, very similar project description. So for now, we can just press on with this project being its own thing, and in the meantime, I'll try and figure out what the ID is for just getting it confused with.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wish John was here. I mean, if it's gonna be adding a passing lane, it needs to be described here as a passing lane. We need to do that.
Well, it's unknown if it's a passing lane or not. It's just dubbed.
Well, then, do we want to just change the project description if everyone's
Yes,
okay with that?
yes, we do, but if this in fact is its own project, it's not the one I was just describing. Then don't do that to this project. Because Rob, weren't you just saying that this is not the project I was just describing?
This isn't funded, so is your project funded, Andy?
The D phase is funded only.
Well, this one's saying it's not funded, so I don't know.
Okay, then this must be a different project.
That's why I was saying it would be.
Yeah,
There's
the D
money
phase
there.
is funded for design, yeah.
We said CDOT, they're on the same page.
Well, it's just miraculous. We have the exact same project name for two separate projects.
Yeah.
It's like US 24 shoulder widening. So actually, I am grateful that I'm here to discover this so I can fix that.
Yes, thank you.
This, one of the wildlife mitigation review, Carson, Schreiber and Peterson, does that include El Paso counties?
Which page are you on?
The front, the first one. Right?
Project ID new.
Yeah.
Oh.
Is it?
I mean, it says since front range transportation input, I actually don't remember this at all, so I don't know where it came from, but if we discussed it, I missed it.
Wait, this is, the 3100, I believe, is the one that you and Leo and,
The one under that is one.
oh, you're talking,
The one right under that.
The one right under that came in via the survey that Samantha sent out, that there were like 3 or 4 responses to.
That's why I don't remember.
That's where it came from, but it was anonymous, so we don't know exactly who it came from.
You know what I do with anonymous ones?
Yes, Mr. Chair?
Well, I just confirmed, this is the project I thought it was.
Okay,
Yeah.
where's it? Okay, then we need to change the unfunded part.
So on the
We're just
15,
refunded.
1642.
It's not funded through 10-year plan, it's funded, the D phase is being funded with RPP.
Okay.
with what?
So,
RPP.
So that was, so 1642.
That is correct. That name will be updated to reflect reality, which is that we don't know. We're doing a safety look at the corridor, determining where the safety need is. And then we're going to put that out to Teller County, El Paso, Fremont as well, and get your priorities, so we can see where we all line up. So that's what the project is, but as I was saying, all signs are kind of pointing right now to an intersection improvement at 24 and 67.
So.
Okay, that's the one that, yeah.
That's the 1011.
So then currently this project is named US 24 shoulder widening. It should be something more like US 24 corridor improvements or.
Yeah, it's US 24 West safety, something along those lines.
Yeah, but it included that intersection in 67.
That is correct. So we think that is actually gonna be the priority, at least from CDOT's perspective. And then that would merge 1011 into 1642, or they'll just have both IDs will show up on the same route. I don't know how you guys typically, how that's handled, but yeah.
Yeah, and just as a heads up, as you guys are working on that, because it is funded, is if you're about to get a request from Teller County on a site plan review for our new central service center, you're probably gonna receive it this month. Or maybe next month, just as a, traffic plan review, because it's within that transportation area of that intersection.
Okay, sounds good.
And so probably within 60 days, you're gonna have, that review request as a interested agency.
Okay. But I do want to stress, it is only funded for the design aspect. And when I say design, I mean very preliminary. It's essentially just a planning level. We want to figure out, well, what is the actual priority? Because right now the scope is just so big, it's just the entire corridor. So we want to narrow that down and find out what the priority really is. So that.
Yeah, it's just a heads up on the planning side, just because there is gonna be a traffic impact.
Point of clarification, Andy, does counties, the far second from the right, does it include Park County then, or no? The analysis, I mean.
Yes.
It does, it goes into Park.
It goes that far.
Okay.
And then it says the status is planning, so that means, is that accurate, or should we say design instead?
Well, it's the deep phase that it has the money, but the work we're actually doing is planning work. So I'm not sure how that.
You could just say planning hyphen design or.
Say planning.
I say planning as well.
Okay,
That-
so planning, that works.
Yeah, please.
So is it gonna be changed to US 24 shoulder widening / safety improvements? For the project name?
Definitely, yes, the name.
This project will widen shoulders on US 24.
So I frankly, I think we should take shoulder widening out of the name entirely, because I don't want it to be misleading. I mean, because we don't know if it's shoulder widening or something else. And in fact, as I was saying, all signs are indicating that it's actually an intersection improvement, not not shoulder widening. So I think just if it can be more generic, just safety,
Yeah,
safety improvements.
Safety improvements, yeah.
And then can we take off 10, 11, or should that, because it'll be integrated?
I wouldn't feel comfortable saying yes to that.
Okay, well, you just keep it, but maybe it goes down below a priority because we had it something above, or should it keep it as a priority?
I just leave it where it's at and then be in the appendix and then hold it into this project that we're saying.
I agree, because I know that there is some opportunity at CDOT to utilize a different funding source completely to address drainage safety related issues on 67, and I think that that's what we'll probably continue to try and do.
Okay.
We squared away on that one? Maybe. Where is it? Where is that? I wanna go back to the wildlife. Okay. I don't know where that came from, if it was anonymous, I've not heard of wildlife problems, I'm sure there are. But have you here in Victoria?
So I just asked my buddy here from Fort Carson, and he said with the Rock Bridge project that's taking care of a lot of the issues, there's some fencing up there, and Schriever and Peterson are in PPACG.
That's what I was trying to ask a minute ago, yeah. I've seen the fence, don't you mention that too, yeah, there is some fence up there.
So
Do you want to keep it?
not be on our list?
I think that needs to not be on our list. The fence.
I have other things I'd rather see up on the list than.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
That's just, so you two know, we do have our East Slope wildlife prioritization study. If you haven't seen that, I can send it to you both. We looked at every highway and ranked the top 15, 20%.
I would like to see that.
Okay, I'll get them to you both.
Thank you. So it stays on, it just moves past the priorities, or
Do you want them to remove completely, or do you want to leave it at the bottom of the list?
Move down.
I think you can move it down, leave it on there, but it would be a priority.
Move down.
Move down.
I would love to see US 24 Albert Road to County Line passing lane, then move up. 1069. On the third page,
Third day.
closest to
Big project
the
down.
middle. Yeah,
You read the ball.
So you want that one, you love it, priority.
yes. Mostly because I'm looking through here and I'm not seeing a lot of love for El Paso County, so gotta get my love in.
It's 1069.
And did we already do the Highway 115 safety study? I don't know. I feel like that was done, but I could be wrong. No,
Which number is that?
Yeah,
2399 on the second page, that's the seventh project down. Not hearing any yeses to that.
okay, just then I'm wrong. Not beyond the realm of possibility.
Well, I'm guessing that all that work was done in that corridor. Every bit of it, well, almost every bit of it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, so surely there was something done before that was done, but
Honestly, safety studies are not that much money, so in the grand scheme, I don't know that it really matters, but.
what was the ID on that one again?
2399,
Second page.
second page, halfway down.
Well, sadly, all my notes are on.
looked through these the other day, and wrote some notes down too, and they're on my desk as well.
Well, while everybody's kind of reading over their list, I do want to convey something that John asked me to put out there for you, for everybody. Just as just as a point of consideration, or I guess just an acknowledgement, you know, that there's already on the priority list, he's just, wants to point out that if there's more projects already priorities than what there's money for. And so just to add projects to the list for the sake of it, you know, let's just consider really taking a hard look at the existing priorities and making sure that we want to do something different. Because they were important at one point. Are they still important or not? Just wanted to point that out, not taking away from what Rob was saying, and I think I'm certainly on the same page as Rob with that. We have two lists here that we're talking about. So
Yeah.
this would be more of a comment, I think, for the 10-year plan, not the long-range plan list.
And back to that question I have on that, speaking of things were important one time and may not be important later, is the impact of CBO and CBO grants on IT infrastructure, you know, along some of these corridors. You know, where there's a pretty significant CBO grant in Teller County that would advance along the Highway 24 corridor, and one of these you know, projects is for that. There's another one for, I think, 94 as to what are the impacts of, you know, the $100 million or $150 million that CBO was going to be spending on you know, fiber infrastructure, and they were focusing on these corridors as well, if I remember those meetings. Do we know any you know, what's left over in regards to these specific projects, and what will be addressed through CDO versus through CDOT? So probably those hands aren't talking to each other, would probably be, yes.
There's some overlap we have with them, right? So, you know, especially when they utilize our right of way, right? I mean, it is a public right of way, and so we do grant that. So we do have interactions when it comes to that.
That's just what I'm wondering, just from a standpoint of, you know, if they're red, they're potentially on our priority list, but we don't know what, you know, what's gonna be left.
Yeah, I don't know there, are you saying there might be some funding from the broadband effort to kind of spill over to highway improvements? Is that what you're?
Well, I mean, unless I'm misunderstanding where it's saying that, you know, top page 3, you know, project 1003 is an installation of fiber optics, intelligent communication system devices. It sounds like kind of half and half. Part of it is advancing fiber.
Right.
And the other half is, you know, the intelligent transportation systems, which you guys know what that means. I don't know what it means.
Okay.
But CBO is gonna be giving money to companies to advance fiber along those same corridors, potentially. I know they are on 24.
Yeah.
So would that potentially impact, or would you guys have no access to those because it's a private fiber funded by a different public fund?
So, you know, we've established our user fee, right? So we do have a fee for the use of the right away, just for fiber. So it's not a utility. But we do also accept in-kind services and efforts. So we might get fiber, we might get our ITS devices. So we make those opportunities, those partnership agreements. We do get these done. Nothing's come to fruition where we could knock something off.
I guess what I'm looking for is that if anybody done like this to see, you know, what's gonna be covered with these things, and are these still gonna, would these still potentially be priorities or not, because of just the changing landscape from a different state government?
Yeah, we meet monthly to talk about all the requested use of our right of way for fiber.
Sure, but does it make it to?
Well, yeah, so nothing's been built where we could knock something out, but we are watching.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting to knock down, I'm just.
Right. Are we
asking
watching?
the question?
Right, no, that's a good point.
You know, because I don't want to leave something on a priority list when part of it, at least we get, you know, through another program.
Yeah, no. Yeah, we're watching. So, but it's a good thing. Maybe, I guess, I mean, there's one thing we could do is kind of do a report out. Because these agreements take forever, right? You know, and our fees are pretty low, and so I don't know what the problem is. With private companies, I think it's a nickel a mile, I don't understand, but we fight these fees a lot, so they're not quick agreements, but I mean, we could kind of report out like a yearly, like this one got accomplished, that wouldn't be a big deal. So we could put some oversight with TPR for at least in their areas on partnerships with fiber.
I guess, Jason, one thing too that Commissioner Still might be asking is, do you coordinate with the Colorado Broadband Office?
We do, CDOT does, we have an ITS department that specifically does.
Yeah, and I'll try to just look into that. He's just talking about, there's a lot of grants through the Colorado broadband office, but through the federal, and are we coordinating with them on what they're coordinating with on their grants? For broadband versus what CDOT's installing for fiber optic.
Okay.
And I can check on the broadband office side and share anything I find.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we don't. Yeah.
Chairman, top of page 3, project 2461.
Yeah, I'm on that one too.
It's kind of the old version of what we suggested for project 3100. They both don't need to be on the list.
I was waiting to discuss that.
I wasn't, yeah, somebody else suggested, I think it was Jeff to take it off, but I wasn't sure it was the whole card or.
What's the number?
2461, the second one down on page 3.
And it doesn't have funding, so it's not like losing.
Right. And the replacement is 3100.
Yeah, it's a similar project. We just kind of changed the verbiage around a little bit to match the priorities.
Thanks, guys.
So for the nature of getting this list where you guys are wanting it, are you wanting to get head nod or approval on moving rural paving off this? Something official that you can work on, or?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, with assurances that it doesn't.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That it doesn't fall away as a priority, then I don't have an issue doing.
Can I ask one question before that? Does it make sense for us to just have rural paving region wide as a priority on the list that's generic and not specific to each segment of road? Because we do, the third project on the list is a rural paving project that we're gonna leave on the list, but it is funded, so.
That's why it's on there. It's just
Okay.
showing that it's funded and on your list. And keeps moving forward. Like I said, help me out here, Aaron. You're sitting there going, "You're on your own, buddy." No, but if you remember, when we developed the 10-year plan. A little bit of background there was it 25% of the money had to go to rural paving?
Off the top allocation.
Off the top allocation, so there's a completely different list that we worked from in order to select those projects. We still have that list, we're still gonna use that list, but it was completely separate from your long-range plan.
So with that mandate of a minimum spend, and it's just a question, maybe it's just a question for the whole board. By taking it off the list, is it kind of lock it in that we're gonna always spend 24 to 25%, whatever that number was, of those monies towards rural paving, so since it's not on the list, that we're not gonna do things out and spend more than that. I wanna make sure it doesn't end up off the radar and kind of locked in at a minimum spend. When frankly, I just view the pavement down the center of the road is probably the most important thing that we do outside of bridges here,
Let me say this, the 10-year plan is intended to really move the needle, the language that we've been using. We want to see major progress on poor pavement, bad bridges, on safety. And that is the intent and how we're structuring the 10-year plan. And so frankly, this 10-year plan is not gonna look a lot like the last 10-year plan. It's gonna have a very heavy, the last 10-year plan was very heavy asset management, but there were still a lot of other projects in there. This 10-year plan is gonna be very heavy asset management.
Yeah, and by the way, I just wanna say, I think that for Region 2, you guys have done a great job on the rural side of this. We've got, a lot of pavement fixed and, and resurfaced and, pretty much all Highway 24 all the way to you know, the Hartsel is gonna have been done within 5 years, which is pretty phenomenal, so.
Good, yeah.
But I don't have an issue pulling it off.
No, yeah, and just to give, kind of tee this up for the next go round, we haven't gotten any direction that our 10-year plan is gonna have the same mandate. The last 10-year plan also had a mandate that 10% of all money had to go to transit. We're not getting that. But like Aaron alluded to, when you start reading through your draft RTP, it pulls out policy directive 14, which is heavily asset, heavily safety, heavily transit. And so when we meet with you, and we'll have a little bit more discussion after this, you'll help us put that together. We'll bring up those rural surface treatment projects during that discussion. So yeah, they're not going anywhere.
So do we put these down further down on the bottom of the list, or do we take them off the list?
I wouldn't.
I put them at the bottom.
Yeah, I would not remove them.
Yeah.
I just like cut a line of your, it seems like I'm hearing. On that front page, we've got a couple edits. One duplicate, one that we're removing. And then we're adding. 10069 up to the top. Does that give us 9 projects or 10 projects? On your on the highway side. Now we need to do.
We still may have 26 projects on the highway side as priorities.
No.
But if you, do we need to narrow it down any further?
What was your number?
My suggestion is. Keep 1080, 2608, 2760, 2611, 3100. We're moving the wildlife mitigation off. We're down below the mark. It's not a priority. 1010, 1665, 2567, 1642. And then.
You know, if we remove these and then come down to the bottom, then I see you're getting the number.
And then maybe 1011 gets combined. We'll move that to the top as well. And then on the third page, what Victoria had mentioned was 1069 as well. Let me just like give us 10. And then, and I'm just looking at last year's, and we also have transit projects down on there. So if we haven't got to transit yet, so I think transit's gonna take probably 12 or so slots in there as well.
Only other question I have on projects here, just in light of what's happening, at least to immediate MMOF funds. There's only one project in here that's kind of blatantly MMOF, which is that pathway in Florence, the multi-use pathway. As to, you know, whether that should remain a priority or not, is that gonna, with, you know, what JPC is doing with funding in regards to multimodal funding, is that, should that still be it's a question, I'm not suggesting, but should that still be something that's on a potential priority list if funding appears to be going away, and I don't see other projects like that on this list?
I don't think MMOF could cover that multi-use path to the high school. Because doesn't that involve a new crossing of the Arkansas River as well?
Oh, does it really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's where it got stalled. I thought it had a safer street to school, whatever, and it just kind of stalled. Of course, they lost their engineer too about the same time, but yeah, they gotta either put another bridge or something off of that bridge to get across the river.
I don't wanna do anything with them down the road, so.
Yeah, I don't foresee anything happening with that, but I hate to take it off there because it is an important thing. It does kids school safely.
Sure.
It can stay on the appendix.
Yeah.
And not in here.
Yes.
So in 11, are we gonna keep that separate until we get clarity on what that project is actually going to? I just don't want that to get lost by getting
You can put it together too, if they are two separate distinct projects, make sure they're together on the list.
Yeah, in fact, 1011, absolutely keep that separate, keep it as its own row, because I was just noticing on the list here, it's 1010. Which is very, in some ways, quite similar. That's the one that may become merged with 1642.
Okay.
It's 1010, not 1011.
Okay.
And those are both on the first page.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then before we get too far off what Rob was and Aaron were just discussing with regard to the next 10-year list. Having, some likely, heavy focus on surfacing projects. John really wanted me to bring up that he did do some rough calculations on just the number of lane miles in all of the CFR. And so this does not include any interchanges or auxiliary lanes, just some shoulders and through lanes. If you only resurfaced those only, which we need to do about every 10 years or so with 2.5 inches of asphalt, it would be around 500 million, 500 million tons at about, no, that can't be right, 500,000 tons of AC, and at current costs, including ancillaries like metal beam guardrail improvements that go along with typical resurfacing projects, it's around $180 million. So we have like 170 coming, something like that, is what John was thinking. So
That's for all of
Region 2.
Oh, that's just all Region 2. Okay,
That's all
so
14 counties.
just, okay, so, okay, well, that only exemplified or, kind of personifies this point even more, that if it takes $180 million to just maintain the surfacing of all of the highways in the CFR, we still don't have enough money. So again, he just wanted to personify that, this point, or exemplify the point that let's not lose any kind of sight of that, before we put other priorities to the list, let's just recognize what, just being pragmatic, on maintaining those assets.
I think since John's not here, we ought to add 10 things and let him.
You know John well.
We'll tell him that Andy recommended it.
There you go. It's great. Narrowed it down to roughly 10 projects, based on Rob's input as well. This is great.
Well, we have to put the transit on there too.
Yeah, are we good with this? Move to transit?
Do you wanna do voice vote or or?
Yeah, I guess we probably should for the record.
You have a list, I mean, I'm happy to make a motion, but you have the list of what we're moving now.
I just have it circled, so it's kind of awkward.
All I was gonna request is that.
Maybe I should write them down and then let Rob look at them just to confirm I got them.
Why don't we look, excuse me, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
You're right. You've got.
Turn your chair stuff.
Yeah, that's right. It's on the first page, you've got everything on the first page except the bottom one, and then we're moving off the wildlife. Right? We're adding, I forgot the number of. Sorry, it's
1069.
Yep. Might have been 8.
10, 11.
It was 10, 11, wasn't it?
That was the other one.
Potentially.
Yeah, 1069.
1069, you want to move it up? Yeah.
You better get mine. I mean, should I do? Tell my boss I'm worth something.
That was these are the ones.
We've got that.
Why am I buying snacks for the?
This is all. Yeah. That's the next project.
And with gonna be a lower case, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be on, and it's been.
Yeah.
Right. I would wait a minute.
Yeah. Sorry.
There's no bacon.
And, okay. Thank you. Good thing you looked at it. There's 10 of them. This one sort of went together. And then,
So these are all moving down?
yep.
Okay.
Well, no, these are all priorities.
These are the priorities, okay. All right,
I'll entertain your motion.
yeah, so,
However you want to phrase it.
yeah, I would move that, 1080, 2608, 2760, 2611, 3100, 1010, 1665, 2567, 1640, 1069, and 1011. On the 10-year plan. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Support, second.
A motion and a second. Is everybody in favor of that one? Signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, we'll move forward with that. Thank you. Move to transportation.
Thank you all. This is really wonderful work.
Maybe this next one will be easier.
And this one, it seems like it's Scott and Emily to maybe take on this conversation with the leadership of Commissioner McGraw.
Yeah, so I can go ahead and explain kind of what my thinking is on behind this and everything. So you see the reallocation requests, these are projects that, we're changing the current, you see 1004 and then 1004A, 1004B. Those are requested changes from the locals, they just to fit the needs of the current transit situation. This one also had some contracting issues just because it named 3 different entities in one project, so it was really hard to contract that out. So splitting this up, 1075, if you look at 1075 and below that one, that's also from this 1004. So that includes Cripple Creek, Canyon City, and Woodland Park. Teller Senior Coalition of Fremont County Transit are listed in those requests. So it's just splitting those up for that purpose. And then going down to 1067, I wanted to talk a little bit about this new interregional service between Cripple Creek, Woodland Park, and Colorado Springs. This one, some of these that are listed on here are busting projects or outrider projects. My recommendation would be we could keep them on there, but we're doing a TCS, a transit connection study right now. And that's really gonna show us our gaps and needs for the for busting and outrider system. So it doesn't necessarily need to be in there since we're already we're gonna be doing looking at all those things. And that's just, I think it got on there because people thought that the locals were gonna do it. And then CDOT was gonna do it, and then CDOT thought the locals were gonna do it. So I think it's just got caught in the middle here. So that's kind of where I'm recommending kind of getting that off there.
And that's why it says funded by other, just because it's already happening.
Correct, yeah. So the 10-year plan, they allocate $24 million right off the top for busting and outrider. So, and then,
Scott, is that recommendation, I'm following you, is that recommendation to keep it on the list, but move it down to the
we can
below the priority line?
Yeah, we could keep it on the list, definitely, but it's
Funded by others.
Funded by others,
And
so.
again, help me out here, Aaron, I think we had an allocation off the top for Mustang this last 10-year.
We had 10% for transit.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it might.
And then I think part of it was for Mustang.
Yeah.
We have some for the next 10-year plan. There's some off the top for Mustang as well, correct?
Let me.
I thought it was like 6 million a year.
Is that true, Emily?
I think that the Mustang is, it doesn't come out of the TPR allocation, it comes off like the top.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
24.
already funded it outside the TPR allocation.
Yeah, that's what I
Justifying moving it down to the bottom.
Yeah, And then we're also having other Senate bills, Senate Bill 267 is one that also is gonna be funding a lot of bus staying and outright projects and stuff too.
So we're saying 1067 is a bus day
Yeah.
project, not public transit for the tourism.
That one's,
I'm sorry, I know I'm jumping a little bit over the place. So I was just wanting to point out that 1067 is a what appears to be a bus staying project and everything on the list and everything originally. And that one we can remove, we can keep it, we can move it down on the lower thing. I just wanted to inform the group that we don't need to propose bus staying projects or outright projects, because we're gonna be looking at that already as CDOT.
Did we confirm with Ted that that was the case? Because Cripple Creek does have a bus from their
Yeah.
transit system that goes to the park, so.
yeah, this
I just want,
project,
just want to make sure that we confirm that with Ted before we.
Okay, Mary, you got your own spot,
I know that this project is, so Cripple Creek to Woodland is currently served by Cripple Creek. And then, Woodland Park to Colorado Springs, there's a partial service or a partial service for, by Teller Senior Coalition.
Right.
So it's kind of, the project is kind of split up between agencies. That's why it's partial service active.
Let me talk to you offline about. Because Victor is funding some of it.
Yeah, so that's, just wanting to make sure that like this isn't Cripple Creek and the Teller County Senior Coalition coming together to try and get additional funding to expand that service reach down to Colorado Springs versus the bus staying route.
We could certainly leave it on there, but yeah, I don't see it I don't see it getting funded by the 10-year plan.
Yeah, as
So,
soon as we cross over also, and there's been some discussion at PDCG. Because once you hit Woodland Park, now you're in the MPL.
correct,
And so that
complicates things.
complicates it, yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I wanted to bring that one to your guys' attention. But then moving down the list, you can see Cripple Creek Transit Facility, that is in design and everything, and then we're just gonna be adding, it's about $130,000 from that 1004 project to that, just for pre-construction stuff for him. And then the big one that I know that we had come to in October is that West Cliff vehicle housing, where Wet Mountain Rotary had gone defunct and everything. So I got with Sam and got with Mac and everybody, and we came up with this UACOG on-demand transit access. And then on the next page is the Custer County Transit Growth. So those two are 1079A and 1079B. And why I split those up too is because there's also for these transit projects, there's also a local match required for them. Operations is 50% and then capital is 20%. So that's why those are split out as well. And then easier for contracting as well. And then if you go to the second page, you see 1081, and that's the one that I had discussions with Mac, Ward and Sam at UACOG about, and just because new interregional, this is 1081, is new interregional transit services between Canyon, Florence and Colorado Springs. Talking to my group, the bus staying ops and everything, it's currently not going to be a route right now. So I really wanted to shift that funding to local priorities and everything. And so I came up with 1081A and 1081B. Again, splitting them up between the providers there. UACOG is interested in doing transit services and everything. So that's where that came from. And then Fremont County, again, giving them some and then this lowers their match request too, so that's what it also makes it a little bit feasible, because I believe this one was like $1 million and it was 50% operations, they'd have to come up with $1 million. So lowering that really helps a lot with the rural transit. And then 1084, that one is funded and we're currently in the planning stages of that one. And that's gonna be on 4th and Main, or where that's gonna be. So, and then next one down is this 1635. Just phone building management. I wasn't in talks with Sam before she left about getting that utilized, but I'll follow that once somebody else comes back. Again, this Cotopaxi and surrounded areas, this one, we really are gonna be looking at, if you look at 1071A, that really is, when talking with Mac, he didn't wanna be kind of. He didn't wanna be in one location, he wanted to be able to go all of Fremont County. So instead of saying like Cotopaxi or just Canyon City, he just wanted to say that, and that's where I did that down there, in 1071A. Sorry, jumped around there. 1070, I did the same thing. That was again, the one that, or. Sorry, Mac doesn't run a fixed route service. He runs on-demand service. So we're just doing a little switch over the name change, nothing else on that. So then he can utilize, he doesn't have to do with fixed route service. You have to do a whole nother paratransit service. It's a lot, and that's not covered by the state or anything. So it's a lot to do. So that just changing that frees up a lot of things for him. And then that one again is unfunded. So that's could be in 27 or in those 4 years. And then back down to 1071. I did split those into two, 1071 and A and B. And both of them address Fremont County Transit, both why I did services and expanding. One is going to be capital, one's going to be operations, so the different match rates and contracting and that. And then the trolley, and then like what I said, like 1006 is definitely one of those ones where we I think got on there for busting, something that we could keep on there, but I just don't see it getting funded by the 10-year plan on that.
So you're gonna leave my county completely out again. The only place I asked for transit
We
service.
stay home in Nevada.
What do I care? That doesn't do anything for me. That's the city. They have bus service. I got nothing.
Well, maybe Emily can speak to this one. This one. Kind of looking in the future with your transit plan. Did this one get slid in there? I don't know where you guys are with the transit connection study, if this one made it or not.
I don't know the details about, the transit gaps that are gonna come from that are gonna be identified in the study. Let's see, light in the Colorado Springs, right? So I think that right now would be a good time if you all want to identify that as a priority for the TPR. Then I think we should definitely do that. I'm not really sure what the results are gonna come with. I think that based on my memory of it, I think that a line to Lyman might be recommended, but that's also expanding service for busting, and so, or like a new line. So I don't know if it'll be, it might be less of a priority than like existing services.
Maybe I'm just being too pragmatic. I'm just looking at. We have 10 transportation projects, 15 transit projects is the number I count. Maybe just leave it on there, and if it gets put onto your transit list, then it gets funded through the bus staying off the top, and the DPR doesn't need to mess with it and tracking it. So that might be cool. Yeah.
So are you saying just leave it on the list, call it a priority so that it maybe helps that? Then I'm down with that. Thank you. I know I'm gonna have to do some mode shift, and I got nowhere to shift. I can't put people on bikes from Calhan to Springs.
Yeah, if there's any, that's the list. If there's any other questions, we can go back through it. But yeah.
So it sounds like, Scott, pretty much the same list, just the scope of some of the projects that we're trying to change to.
Yeah,
that's match costs and to better suit the transit needs that are actually out there, and you've worked with
I've heard a lot of name dropping, which is good. I've worked with all our local transit partners, so.
Yeah, Mac, Ted, everybody has been a part of this, from the beginning. So yeah, it's been really a lot of back and forth.
I think it's pretty exciting to see that those guys are really trying to push what they're doing. We don't have transit. Max kind of got it going, but he's trying to dance it.
He is.
And I hope it works.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I see the light at the tunnel for that one. It's really, really exciting.
Yeah, it's not up to a town of 379 has bus service. So
Pretty lucky up here.
So there's really nothing here we need to change then, correct?
That's up to you, Mr.
The question is on the one with, is it a bus thing or is it the coalition? Do you think it's a bus thing?
No, it would be local.
Local, yeah, it would be local, and that's where I think that our wires got crossed on one of the business. Is where the locals thought it was gonna be a bus thing, and then it just ended up on there, and then as we saw the list, it's, oh, that's a local project. So that's where it can definitely be on there if there's other fund, if the transit agency is gonna go for like federal grants or something like that, they can use that as a springboard too, so. I would say, just keep it on there, and we'll leave it unfunded.
Does anybody have any comments? Move something, Victoria needs a person out there to push it. It's happening.
And I will go through and I'll rename these, I'll just give them different project IDs, but I just wanted to show that where they came from before I did that.
No, I would entertain a motion.
So I would move adoption of the list with moving this project number that I don't now have in front of me.
1076.
Thank you, 1076 to a priority. And other changes and fixes needed by CDOT.
Okay, so yeah.
That's been 76. All in favor, signify with aye.
Oh,
I think.
no, you want 1006.
Yeah.
1006.
10:06.
Yeah. 1006.
Is it 10:06?
Oh, 1006? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right next to it.
Yeah.
Thank you, I know, I always got myself out.
That would have been happy.
Okay, so that'll help push it out there. Maybe I are, right. 1076, that's all right. All right, so we do have a motion in a second. That list, all in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Free to hesitate for anybody. Okay. Is there?
I got going back to transportation, I got a text from Chad Wright, one of our maintenance operators there. He said, he recommended 1637 Colorado 9 shoulder widening, 9 shoulders for safety and accommodate bikes for the corridor between Fairplain as well as Breckenridge to Alma, including other safety improvements. So I know that was I mentioned in the past, I don't know if it's still a priority for everyone, it's probably more of a Park County, but he mentioned it. I know there's a lot of issues up there as well with pavement.
Everyone would have been saying, yes, we need to fix it. I don't know who took his place.
So it's there for consideration. If you guys wanted to add that one, that was recommended by our maintenance staff.
Well, when the maintenance staff is recommending it must be pretty bad, I'm guessing. What we would need to do if the desire is there is to add 1637 to the priorities of the first motion we had. On the third page, 2/3 of the way down. It's pretty. It's a well-traveled road too.
In the scopes, Lucy, if we were to address everything, it'd be terribly expensive, but you do have that patch there. If you recall, between Alma and the top of Hoosier Pass, it's failing as well. Keeps slipping.
Yeah. Been talking about that ever since I've been here.
I know.
Yeah, well, since we've gone back, I just wanted to point out two rows that can be removed. Two projects from, the highway projects list, 1664. This is on page 4. That project is now complete and done with construction.
Which one do you think?
It's 1664 is the project ID, that's Highway 94 intersection, modification at Laney. That is complete, it's done. On that same page, project 2400, that is the Highway 115 Wildlife Fence Project. That fence project was actually adopted into the Highway 115 pavement reconstruction project. So this road can be removed.
Which is the reason we removed the other one over here, because that's for the same thing,
Which one? Sorry.
2400.
Okay.
That's what the one on the front that we removed was asking for that exact thing, for parts and everything, they did add other basics, but.
Yeah.
What was the other one, 1662 or?
Yeah.
Four.
We do well, like, that's some. It's a pretty big gap to the biggest one.
That's what I was told.
1664 and 2400. Yeah, 1664 is complete. 2400, that we could go over. What's everyone that turn on 1637? The rough dump shop maintenance. Probably 9.
So without a Park County representative here, I'm probably gonna have to defer to what the CDOT maintenance folks feel is important. I think they'd be the ones to best represent that in lack of a Park County representative, so certainly supportive of an amendment to our previous vote. Second.
So we'll just call that an amendment to, or a motion to add that to the list.
To add 1637 and eliminate 1664 and 2400 from the appendix list.
Yep.
Good.
You have that, Kathleen, so we have a motion in a second, to make those changes to the highway projects. Any discussion? Everybody clear on that? All in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here, anything else?
At the discretion of the chair, we've got a list locked down. Really up to you. I can throw these up on the screen if you wanted to take a quick look, or if you just wanted to, just take it back with you and just read it at your leisure. And then make comments, so absolutely up to you, chair.
How about cancer good? Here, or at home? Yeah, right, is that a consensus?
Could you remind us, when do you need comments by for that plan to incorporate?
Yeah, let me just scroll through. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely. Yeah, let me throw this up on the screen real quick. Because that'll just take a second.
Thank you so much for your help in getting this prioritized. It was really wonderful.
Quickest presentation ever, Aaron.
Yeah, this is gonna be, really quick. Yeah, there's. So. I think we all know where we are. This is meeting number 4. We've got really some public engagement after this, which I've already mentioned. And once we have the press release for the telephone town halls and the link solidified for the survey. We'll be sending that out. Please feel free to send that out to all your other constituent groups and other interested folks who we'd like to see participate in both the telephone town halls and to fill out the survey. And so again, just as a refresher, regional plans, we'll do that, and then we'll working on the statewide plan. We'll have both those available for your review in the next couple months. Your regional, I have the dates for your regional plan due dates. But just as an overall sort of framework, regional plan, statewide plan, then we talk about the 10-year plan, and then things move from the 10-year plan into the STIP. So we've done that hard, heavy lift in terms of the priorities, and then the transit priorities. Your draft transit plan is available. We'll publish that as a appendix. So that'll be accompanying your regional transportation plan. And then there's also I don't know if you will talk briefly about the survey for older adults and older adults with disabilities that's forthcoming.
Yeah, I can talk about that real quick. So yeah, we're gonna get, we're kicking that off soon. It's gonna be a statistically valid survey going out to older adults and adults with disabilities in Colorado. We're kind of on a time crunch right now. Unfortunately, we don't have it ready for the draft yet, but we're planning to have it done by the public comment period. So more to come on that, but we did the survey in the previous plan, and we got some really great results and feedback.
What is the definition of older adults? Because Eric doesn't think he's older than I do, but I just wanted to know that.
I believe it's 65 plus. To my knowledge.
How are you reaching out to me?
So, I have a meeting with the person who's leading it later today, but from what I remember, and what we're gonna plan on doing is send out paper surveys by mail. So we're gonna have an option for online, and we're gonna have a link to, or a QR code, or a way for them to take the survey online.
And so again, this is gonna come up again, and it's gonna come up again as we talk more about the 10-year plan. These are the goal areas, what we're trying to accomplish in the 10-year plan. And really developing the 10-year plan includes developing a set of projects that really are that target advancing transportation safety, really address for assets. Probably, if you all can think back to when we started this process, we probably mentioned at some point where Colorado is nationally in terms of our pavement rank. Somewhere around, I don't know if it's changed recently, but when we started the process, we were at 47th in the nation in terms of poor pavement. And this is our, really our focus is in terms of trying to address those poor assets, and then really trying to give folks a choice where it's appropriate in terms of increasing transportation choice and providing alternatives to driving alone. And then, so this again is just gives you a high level overview of how we'll go about the development of the 10-year plan. We've completed those, or made a lot of progress in terms of the first 4-year priority plan list, the second 4 years, and then you have the remaining 2 years of out years. We'll use a lot of those projects that will then help us to continue the development of the new 10-year plan, which will cover FY 27 to FY 36. And really the driver is Policy Directive 14 to be the way that we'll identify the projects that get into the 10-year plan. And so, again, we really want to make progress in terms of high quality investments in those areas. And we are here in April, meeting number 4. As you also can see, we've got our public review period. We'll get our federal review and then present things before both the stack and the commission. And that those things also kind of coincide with the moving forward on the next the new 10-year plan. So yep, we've got our date, District 9 locked down, so we'll get some press release information out and get that'll be our first town hall among all of the 12 commissioner districts. So how many is that? 13.
It's 11.
11, thanks.
11 districts, 9.
Yes. So we're combining the metro area. And then we'll get the survey out, and then did we send out the comment tracking sheet already? Or
No, it's a link that's in the presentation.
Okay.
But what we can do, that's a big discussion here today. How do you prefer to submit your comments?
We're gonna use the tracking sheet.
But we have the tracking sheet where if you open it up, you can see where you put your name and the page and all that. But it seems like if that isn't totally comfortable, you could send us a PDF, but we would prefer you use the comment sheet because we want to make sure we capture your comments.
Yes.
And so.
Yeah.
You wanna open it up and just show them what it looks like?
Yeah, I can, sure. Let me get you this date because that was a question. April 28th, draft RTP comments are due April 28th. Draft comments are due.
And the meeting is the 29th.
Yes.
And then here's some other dates, and then let me go back and take a. Sure. And then this is how the comment tracking looks.
And the date of when they're due by is on there as well.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
if you need any assistance with
Yeah,
comments, let us know.
absolutely.
This is how we prefer it, if at all possible.
Yeah. If it absolutely does not work for you, yes, you can send us an email.
And then the idea is to send the email to either me or also me and Emily if you have a transit comment. That's it. And then we need your help to get the word out for the telephone town hall too, because it's gonna be cell phone based and people have to register to,
People don't have to register.
They don't?
No.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I thought maybe they did.
People can register to make sure that they get called, because we'll call out a huge number of, like a huge number. You know, it's like 75% or something like that. So you may not get a call, but there's a way where you folks can make sure that they get a call by registering on the website. But we don't the cell phone piece. We don't have that restriction like we did.
Oh, okay, I thought maybe, I guess the advanced technology, they have numbers now for cell phones, because the last time I participated, they were still using land.
Yeah, I hope you tap into the database.
Yeah.
Maybe. So one last time, is everybody okay with taking this home and reviewing it, and then put your comments in by the 28th? Okay, thanks, Aaron.
Note that Custer County is not included in the TC District 9 telephone town hall. Custer will be 2 days later, I believe, on the May 1st one.
Good catch. That just the way our commission districts lay out.
Sorry, Custer.
You need help to get the word out on that. Is there a specific link that you want shared out?
Forthcoming. Yeah.
Okay.
It's forthcoming.
Okay, anything else on that, Aaron? We're good? Good. Okay, we can go into these other things if we need to, CDOT project updates. I don't know that. You got anything, Rob?
I think, John Hall passed out a list.
They're included
Provided in their packet.
Oh, yeah.
So if you have any specific questions, you can ask, and he might be able to answer some of them as well.
I don't know if we covered the question that you had about the no choice bill, but the concept that I think we're recommending is that we use existing planning efforts to help identify those needs, the bike pedestrian needs.
And our cost estimate gonna be required?
I don't know. Let me follow up specifically on that. Yeah.
I'll make it up, because I don't have any. Exactly, everything $1 billion.
By the way, the draft plan does have some reference to cost estimates, but we're pretty sure that they aren't gonna be part of the plan. And that's why there's a beautiful word called draft, because it's not final yet. And so, we don't anticipate there being, cost estimates associated with the projects in the regional plan. But there is something in there that makes you think there might be, but wait, page 21, just speaking.
Draft is also a scary word.
I like it myself.
And you get add whatever you want to it.
All right, is there any local updates that anybody would like to share? Right. No. Maintenance, we know the road to be fair play and all the needs fixed.
And it's, Chad's watching, but his mic's not working.
Okay. Type it in the typing there, Chad.
I got it working now, so if there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Yeah, do you have any other updates for us?
No, the biggest one is Highway 9 at mile marker 75 here in May. We will start doing some foam injection on that one corner. It's kind of where we have a slide right through there. We see a lot of freezing thaw process through there, and I got a contractor CST that'll be doing that work. And then we have some paving and chip seal jobs we're going to be doing this summer after July. And next meeting, I'll have that kind of plan in place for y'all. That way, once I figure out how much funding we're going to have, I can kind of prioritize that plan of which projects we will do.
Is it in your purview for weed spraying?
Yes. We actually, we will
ahead.
be starting, and it's actually starting up next week.
Okay. So you guys are gonna try to do most of your own?
Yes. Yeah, we actually got 4 people certified. That'll be doing our weed spraying. They'll really start hitting Fair Play area will probably be about 2 weeks out. But for Fremont and Teller and Custer, they are starting this week.
Great. Anybody else have any other questions for him on maintenance? Thank you, sir.
Yep, thank you.
You have any other transit updates, Jake?
No transit updates at the moment.
So our next meeting is scheduled for July 14th. We need a location, I think. Leo, do you guys want to have it just in case you're still at the helm of this?
Yeah, we can probably do it in our council chambers, I would guess. Let me check the availability, but I will right back to you and let you know.
Even if you don't, you can find a place.
Yeah,
again, between you and us.
What was the date again?
So we'll find a place for sure right now, it's to be determined, but gonna figure somewhere. You're lucky. Dang. I'm all choked up on that one. But July 14th, you should have received calendar cancellations and then calendar invites for the meetings right after. Thank you for that. Okay, is there anything else anybody would like to cover on?
Just, now that we got our long range plan projects figured out, that next step is the 10-year plan. And it's a fast pace. We just got a schedule that indicates that we need to have a draft by July 11th. And then it needs to be finalized by the end, it says September 2nd, so the end of August. So next, a week from today, I have a meeting scheduled in the region to go over and draft the 10-year plan list. And then we'll get that out to you guys to take a look. I want you guys to take a look at it, know that it's coming. Let us know if we're on the right page, because it's faster around. Like July, you guys should, we're gonna be asking you guys for a thumbs up on. With that said, $167 million sounds like a lot, but when you start splitting that up between 5 regions, it doesn't go very far. So kind of my real thought process is we'll look at those that are funded and may need additional funding. Then we're going to be looking at rural surface treatment projects or other assets along those lines. So that's really what we're looking to focus at. So I promise you, we are looking at rural surface treatment. Yeah, I suspect you'll only see a couple projects on that 10-year list for 27 through 30. Through 30, yeah. So.
Okay. Just a reminder that the MMOF Awards will, as the state figures out what they're doing with their budgets, we'll try to have a meeting and discuss those. Anything else?
Yes.
Yes.
The STIP for fiscal year 26 through 29 is out, and there is a link I can share with you guys. The staff meeting, it's May 1, so it's the first day of May, and it will be in person. And we hope to see you there. And also the TC for April this month is going to be, all the meetings will be held, both the workshops and the regular meeting will be held on Wednesday, April 16th.
In
So,
right?
I'm sorry,
In person.
staff is in person.
Stack. Got it.
Just TC consolidating the meetings, they don't have a big event. So that's it from each.
Questions? Anything else? And we are adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Well, and I'm glad you were here because I